This is The Speaking Show. I'm David Newman, and you're tuned in to the #1 podcast for speakers, consultants, and experts who want to speak more profitably. All right, Rachel Peterson, welcome, welcome, welcome. It is so fabulous to have you. You are the queen, the guru, the empress of social media managers. So let's talk about that first. How did you get to own that mountain of the go-to person for folks who want to become or grow their social media manager business?
That is such a great question, David. I started going after being a social media manager. And during that time, I found myself feeling very alone. I didn't know what a proposal was supposed to look like. I wasn't sure if I was following the right processes. I wanted somebody to vent with or ask questions about or celebrate wins with. And the whole time I was going through that process of discovering what that looked like, I just kept wanting a community of social media managers. And so as soon as my business really was taking off, it was doing very well, I realized, wait a second, I can create that. I can bring together quite a few different social media managers. So I started a free group on Facebook, which exploded so quickly. It grew from 0 members in February to almost 2,000 in April. And then now it's at 4,400 members. So I naturally attracted social media managers. And one of the things that was really cool is instead of seeing them as competition, which a lot of people do, they say, I don't want to talk to other social media managers. That's my competition. I embraced them and I brought them in and I said, let's support each other. Let's do this together. And that was different in the industry.
Oh my gosh. Well, so one thing that you might not know is that in our National Speakers Association community, that's exactly how we operate as well. So speakers who would ordinarily be competitors, they share ideas. They're incredibly generous. They're incredibly wonderful in sharing and giving with each other. So I love that you have that same ethic in your group, that same kind of come from. So let's talk about this. I think speakers and thought leaders and experts, when you say, hold on, I've got 4,400 of my ideal prospects in this group, and they love me, and they're hanging on my every word, and it's their daily destination. They look forward to checking in to this Facebook community that I've created. And you said you started at 0, and it's up to grew to 2,000, 3,000. Now it's up to 4,400. I know people's alarm bells are going off in their heads. They're going, hang on. How do I do that for my business? If I'm a leadership speaker, sales speaker, health and wellness speaker, finance expert, whatever the topic may be, can you give us just kind of the basic blocking and tackling of how we might start something like this and what you would recommend as someone who's done this and who obviously advises your social media manager clients how to do it for their clients?
Absolutely. There are a couple of things that really made it easy to grow the following in that community very quickly. The first one is, and this is going to sound so obvious, but make your name stupid simple. The name of the group needs to be so obvious that anyone who isn't familiar with you, isn't familiar with your brand or what you offer, says, oh, that sounds like something I might be interested in. So the name of my group is Become a Social Media Manager. It sounds so obvious, but most people come up with these really creative names that don't explain what the group is even about. So make it stupid, simple. Make it so obvious that when they see it pop up in their suggested groups, they say, yes, that's me. I want to be a part of that. So that's the first action step in creating an amazing, growing community on Facebook. Another is to rep it everywhere. I'm very active on many different social media platforms, as you might imagine. And I literally put the link to my Facebook group on every single platform. So no matter what, everything was feeding to this community. So if my Instagram following grew, which it has, it's at 16,000 followers now, every single person is coming back to my community and saying, yeah, I want to be a part of what she's doing. She's doing something, and this looks really fun. So everything feeds into that group. That's another thing. Another part is to make it really engaged from the very beginning. And that's hard for a lot of people. I'm sure you remember the first time you started a group, you go in there, there's nobody there, there's crickets. You're answering your own questions, you're asking your own questions, you're having a dialogue with yourself. And it's awkward. It's that way for everybody. But the more present you are and the more you show up, others are going to feel comfortable chiming in. And then they're going to invite their friends. So those were the 3 big things I did from the very beginning that caused explosive growth.
So you said something super important, and we're going to dive into some of the individual social media platforms in a second, where I think probably the same principle applies. You did not make your Facebook group about you and branding it with your name. It wasn't the Rachel Peterson Group. It wasn't the name of your company. It was a functional description of what most of your tribe wants as an outcome or a result. And they're signing up to get that outcome or that result. They're not being attached to you or your brand or your company name because who cares? Am I right?
Absolutely. I mean, anyone in their right mind isn't going to say, Rachel Peterson, yes, I'm a big fan of hers, because when I started that, nobody knew who I was. It didn't matter to them. What mattered to them was the outcome that they could receive or what they could learn from the group. I absolutely agree. That is hugely important in creating a raving community online.
And that's so vitally important. I mean, I think, a lot of times we talk in the meetings industry about the power of being a convener, right? Being a convener and being a host and being the person who gathers people around the campfire. So the biggest, juiciest, most appealing, warmest campfire is not going to be based on you, but it's going to be based on what your tribe really wants, what they want to do or learn or become or achieve.
I couldn't agree with that more. I think that that's exactly right. When you make it less about you and you make it all about them, who doesn't love themselves? Bring them in, ask them about themselves, ask them about their struggles, their victories, their wins, their losses, etc. And then that creates just a raving group that's continually engaging.
Absolutely. I love that. Now, Rachel, one of the things that you do is you have a sort of matchmaking service where you connect people like us, right? Busy professionals, speakers, experts, consultants, authors, etc., with a social media manager that can take a lot of this grunt work and tech work and busy work off their plates. So talk about how that came to be, because you're training all these fabulous social media managers. How did the matchmaking service come into play? And then give us a couple matchmaking tips of what we might look for when we're looking to outsource and delegate and partner with someone fabulous to help us with this.
Absolutely. So with a community of 4,400, there's no way that I can personally know every single one of those people. I wouldn't have enough hours in the day or enough brain power to answer all of those questions and get to know every person. So what I did is I created actually a monthly membership that's called Social Media University, where people pay monthly. They come in, they receive all of my trainings, they get a lot of one-on-one attention from me, and I actually know every single one of them at this point, which is so cool. I know their kids, I know their names, their strengths, their weaknesses, what they charge, etc. And when that started to present itself, people approach me quite a bit to manage their social media. I can't take on every single person, but I don't love letting that opportunity go. If there's a business owner or a speaker who says, I really need somebody to help me with Twitter, here's my budget, here's what I'm looking for. Hello, it seemed like I couldn't let it go. I wanted to partner them with somebody that they could trust, that I know, that I can recommend. And I've seen really winning combinations come together since I started doing that process. The easiest way for people to get into touch with that social media matchmaking process is just to go to my website, which is rachelpeterson.com. And I have a form for social media matchmaking. Literally, every single question in there is designed to help me figure out which of my social media managers I can personally recommend and handpick for any busy professional.
And so the model in our world, in speaker land, is like a speakers bureau, right? So when you connect with the speakers bureau to help you select the speaker, that is free for the client. And then the back end commission happens between the speaker and the speakers bureau because they obviously helped you get a gig. So am I correct that for us as potential clients, your service is free to us?
It's absolutely free. And at this point, it's actually still free to my students as well. It's completely a labor of love. It's something I do just because I love them. I love the people I connect them with. And may that change? Yeah, probably, because it's not sustainable to continue growing. But it's something I do just because I really, really enjoy it.
Wow. So how about that? Okay. So monetization tip is maybe that referral service, that matchmaking service becomes a paid service at some point, but it'll be free to us no matter what. It'll be free to the clients, I'm imagining. Although I guess you could, if you're really crafty, you could make money on both sides of that equation because that's got real economic value. It's like, oh, how much time have I wasted, kissing frogs and interviewing people and then mishires, right? Hiring the wrong social media manager that doesn't have the right skill set or the right fit or the right degree of responsiveness or whatever it might be. So I can imagine that would be hugely valuable for both. Hey, this interview is a real moneymaker. If you're serious about ramping up your reach and revenue as a speaker, trainer, or expert, book a confidential speaker strategy call with our team. The link is doitmarketing.com/call. It will be the most valuable 45 minutes you invest in your speaking-driven business. Speaking of value, let's get back to the show. Well, let's do a lightning round.
Go for it.
Platform by platform. We'll have a little bit of fun with this because I know that a lot of the folks listening in are either overwhelmed or confused or they're already burned out.
Yes.
You know what? I've done all kinds of stuff on Facebook. It's never done a thing for me. I am pounding away on LinkedIn and it feels like I'm breaking a brick wall with my forehead. So We'll start one by one and we'll knock out some of the biggies. Let's start with Facebook. What are some quick do's and don'ts for speakers, authors, and experts on their Facebook profile, on their Facebook page? What do you got?
Well, Facebook, as you know, has changed quite a bit. The algorithms have penalized every single person across the board. And unless you have a lot of money to put into creating amazingly epic content, Facebook ads, etc., that doesn't really change for anybody. It's always pulling teeth. So instead, you have to get a little bit crafty and start to think about how powerful your personal profile is. Be visible as a person as you start to go into communities and introduce yourself or explain something or give a value bomb. People are going to be like, oh my gosh, I need to learn more about this person. I want to hear them. I want to have them speak at my event. So the power of your personal profile is suddenly 10 times more powerful when you utilize it. Facebook groups as well. That's a place where whether you own it or someone else owns it, that's a place to really connect with your target market and establish yourself as an influencer. So it's a little different than what everyone else is recommending with Facebook pages, but that's what I recommend for maximizing Facebook.
So you have a fabulous success story that I'd love you to share about your Facebook profile, your personal profile. And you have to show me this little teeny tiny ring. Can we see the teeny tiny? Oh man, that's a teeny tiny little sad, pathetic little ring. So the reason I'm making fun of this, of course, because you have this fantastic case study on your website, is that little teeny tiny wedding ring, and you'll see why I'm calling it teeny tiny here in a second. It blew up. It blew up like major viral big time. Talk about that because that had nothing to do with your business. And it was a beautiful slice of life, intentionally designed Facebook post that you put out there, and it totally went viral, and it went like crazy viral. So give us that success story in just a minute or two.
Perfect. So when I crafted this story for Facebook, it was a story I was actually wanting to tell on my personal profile. I knew it would get some response. People are pretty engaged on my personal profile, but I did something a little different. And since it was written so personably, I put it on my business page. It doesn't really make sense. It doesn't go with my business, but I just felt like this is where I want to put it. And then I sent this message. So it was all about my tiny ring and talking about how no matter what happens in my life, I'm not going to upgrade my ring because this ring speaks so much more to what our lives have been. And that speaks to success to me more than a big diamond. Not that they're wrong for anyone who's listening and says, oh my gosh, I have a big diamond ring. Great. Awesome. Enjoy it. So I shared it on my business page, sent it straight to the target market that wanted to hear it, which is a part of the strategy, the person that it was written for, and it took off. It went so viral. There were 11.2 million people reached. I had 60,000 plus shares online, and that's when it went even bigger. That's when it was picked up by the Huffington Post, Glamour Magazine, Cosmopolitan, US Weekly, you name it, my ring was in it. So it was a really cool opportunity, but I also was able to turn it into a strategy. I had a feeling it might go viral. Actually, I knew it was going to go viral, but I just didn't know how big it would go. So when that piece started to go viral on my page, I pinned a post on my Facebook page, my professional page, that said, social media managers and business owners, if you want to learn more about social media, join my free community. And that was a huge part of my growth. Everyone who checked out my page, if that spoke to them, they joined the group.
How about that? So, I mean, that's a beautiful, because I think a lot of speakers and experts have this question, right, about all social media. And we're going to move on to the other platforms in a second. But they say, well, how much should be personal and how much should be professional, right? Because there's this concept of, well, social media is social. It's not called business media. It's called social media. But there's a beautiful crossover happening with that success story, and that we should maybe not be afraid of sharing some things from our personal life, both victories and struggles and what's on our mind and what we're concerned about and things that are happening with our kids or our husband or our wife or our dog or our parents, that some of that is okay because it makes us human. Would that be correct?
Oh, I couldn't scream yes more loudly. Like, yes, yes, yes. Your audience wants to know that you're not only a real person, but that you are experiencing the same types of struggles that they're having. It might look different at this point in our careers, et cetera, but they want to know, am I alone in this? Am I the only one that struggles with work-life balance? Sorry, what is that? Yes, I want to connect with my audience and say, it's difficult, it's crazy, it's tricky. Sometimes it's messy and it doesn't go well. And I found that with my audience, whenever I let them into who I am and some of the struggles I'm having, oh my gosh, they love it. They're like, oh, thank goodness. I just thought you were here putting in these 100-hour work weeks, getting tons of amazing stuff done. I didn't realize you have breakdowns or, your kids get sick and life isn't glamorous. Yeah, it's not glamorous at all. So it really is a great way to connect with your audience and make you real to them. The second you're not real to them and you're all polished and all professional, there's a disconnect that happens.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's move on then. Let's move on because we just talked about personal and business. Let's talk about business, and that takes us to LinkedIn. So some quick do's and don'ts and maybe best practices that you've seen on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. LinkedIn is one of my favorite platforms. It's one where I've generated a lot of business and attracted a lot of people to my blog, to my services, to all of the different things that I offer. So one of the biggest takeaways that I've had with LinkedIn is to embrace the open networker mindset. Think of a networking party. You go to a networking party, you're not going to sit with your 3 friends and say to anyone who passes by, I'm sorry, I'm only here with my friends.
I am actually. That's how I spend my life, but that's why I got to get out more.
Well, you're special in that, David. But with LinkedIn, it's an opportunity to grow your network, to meet new connections. And LinkedIn has actually been a place where I've taken relationships offline and I've been able to meet up with people for coffee or meet up with people when I'm in a city that they're in. And those relationships have been incredibly powerful for partnerships, for friendship, for support and connection. So embrace that open networker mindset and start to connect with people you wouldn't normally say, yes, I know this person. It's a new network that you get to tap into. So that's really powerful. Another thing I see on LinkedIn is a lot of profiles that aren't filled out completely. Optimize your entire profile, fill it out with absolutely everything so that you don't seem mysterious or maybe scammy or spammy. Let people get to know who you are at a glance by looking at your profile. That's so powerful.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's go to some of the weird ones. And it's funny because within NSA, we've had a lot of coverage about social media in the last few years. Obviously, I think a lot of industries have focused quite heavily on social media. I think Twitter is the one where you have to really explain that to people if they don't already know about it. And of course, most people do know about it now. But, back in the day, it's like, well, yeah, there's LinkedIn, there's Facebook, there's Google Plus, and there's Twitter. And we used to say, Twitter's the weird one.
Yes.
Twitter takes a little getting used to before you kind of get your feet wet and you know what's really going on. So now I think we're beyond that. People know what Twitter's about. But Twitter best practices, kind of do's and don'ts, and where we can get in trouble and where we can be smart with Twitter.
Absolutely. So on Twitter, tweet, and tweet some more. You really can't over tweet on Twitter. There are a lot of experts that are tweeting every 6 minutes, which seems like a lot, but Twitter's huge. And every single tweet is the opportunity to get into somebody's on their horizon. They see you, they're excited about you. So feel free to tweet about anything and everything. I put victories in my personal life. I talk about best practices. I talk about thoughts that I have or experiences that I've had. I ask questions on Twitter. So tweet some more. Feel free to connect with new people. When you follow new people, they're going to probably follow you back. Twitter actually has a really great conversion rate across the board in almost every single industry. When you follow somebody, that law of reciprocity makes them want to follow you back and connect with you. And another thing that I also recommend is reach out to influencers. I've reached out to quite a few different influencers on Twitter and have great success with them liking, retweeting, replying to my comments, sending me messages. Just the other day, the winner of The Apprentice, he reached out to me because I followed him on Twitter. And I just thought that was so cool. So it's really interesting because Twitter is the one where most influencers are still managing or are still hands-on with their social media there. So you can actually get into touch with somebody without that gatekeeper saying, no, I'm sorry, I'll pass along your message. I won't pass along your message,
Right.
It's a great way to connect directly with people.
So just like Facebook, the big question is how much business, how much personal. With Twitter, the big question is automate or don't automate or semi-automate with tools like Hootsuite or Buffer or, every 6 minutes. I mean, I'm not going to be on there every 6 minutes, but what's your take on Twitter tools and automation that you can't automate the relationships necessarily, but should you automate any of it?
Absolutely. I am a big fan of automation because there are only so many hours in our day. You hit a limit and then you're not able to do any more. It's not possible. So automation is something I'm all about as long as, and this is the big, big disclaimer that I have, as long as you're not trying to automate or fabricate a relationship. So if you're sending direct messages that are automated, it doesn't seem real and everyone sees through it. If you're replying to messages in an automated way, it doesn't work. But to publish content to your Twitter feed, absolutely go for it. Just don't try to automate the relationship piece. Come in and then nurture those relationships.
Super quick commercial break. Isn't this interview amazing? If you'd like to get more ideas on how to start or grow your speaking business fast, pop over to our free training at doitmarketing.com/webinar. How about Instagram?
Oh, I love Instagram. Anyone who wants to be an influencer, wants to be seen as a thought leader, wants a strong following, needs to be active on Instagram. It is a no-brainer. So Instagram is one, I'm just a mom from Minnesota. I'm pretty normal. I have pictures of my kids on there. It's not incredibly branded. I've grown from 0 connections followers to 16,000 in under a year. That's crazy. And I just imagine the power when somebody does have a brand that's very prominent on their Instagram, how much more people are going to resonate with it. But Instagram's really powerful. And here's my one big tip for Instagram. That link in bio is so powerful because you can drive everyone to a specific action, to maybe join your email list, to check out your latest blog post, to sign up for your case study. But by building a following, you're going to continually be driving people to that link in your bio.
And so because that's a one-time spot, right? You don't get like 7 links, you get 1 link on your Instagram as your place to drive people. You can change that seasonally, daily, weekly, whatever you want to do. Is there like an evergreen spot, kind of a default spot that you send people? Like in your case, is it your website? Is it your fabulous Facebook group? When you're not promoting something specific with, let's say, a landing page, where do you like to send people in general?
I always send them to something, but if you don't have anything in place that you want to be promoting, your website is a great place, especially if you have any type of analytics or tracking set up, because then you can grab their information with like the Facebook pixel and you're able to remarket to them down the road. So you're just driving traffic to your website and letting them explore where they naturally would want to learn more.
Fantastic. So let's move on to, and I'm going to lump all these together. Let's move on to video live streaming. So Facebook Live, Snapchat, Periscope. Give us the scoop on that, especially for speakers and people who market their smarts and market their ideas.
I don't want to go on the record as saying that Periscope and Snapchat are irrelevant because they're not. They're very powerful, but they're difficult to use platforms. They're a little trickier, a little more hands-on. You really have to use them consistently to see the fruits of the labor there. So I'm not going to recommend that for everybody unless you're already super active on social media. But Facebook Live is so easy to hop onto. And the second people connect with you face-to-face, it changes things. You're able to talk about an area of expertise, deliver value. Suddenly that connection is there and you're a real person again.
Boy, I love that. Well, and the other thing, of course, is that we're already on Facebook. So there's not an extra app to download. There's not an extra app to launch. You don't need to drive people someplace else that they wouldn't ordinarily go, right? So think about all of your Facebook community. Well, they're already on Facebook. They don't need to download Periscope, follow this username, log in at this time to watch me on Periscope. It just shows up in the feed. So they're already there. Your audience is already there typically.
And not only that, but Facebook is starting to pop up a little notification in your newsfeed when somebody goes live. Imagine if every single time you went live, it pops up in the newsfeed of your followers. They're going to be a little bit curious. They want to know what you're talking about. And that, honestly, it opens the doors to so many more followers.
Yeah, I love that. Now let's talk about, and this really isn't social media, but a lot of people kind of bucket it in with social media. And you mentioned your blog. And I think blogging has been around forever. And I think a lot of speakers and authors and experts, they're either already on the blog bandwagon or they're not. And so looking right now, what's the state of blogging today? Is this something that if we haven't been on it or if we've been on it before and let it go dormant, should we jump back in? And then some blog best practices that you've seen?
Great question. Blogging isn't going anywhere. It's just like saying books are dying. Not true. Books are still alive. And not only are books alive, but people still want to read and hold a book. That may never change. Blogging isn't changing. People are wanting new tips, practices, advice. And if you'll notice, sometimes you can post something that people have been asking for years, but because it's fresh content, it's a fresh voice, they're excited about it and they want to read the entire blog post. I don't see it going absolutely anywhere. One thing that I have been noticing though is there is several different ways that you can go about blogging. You can do a long form blog post, which is, anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 words. Not necessarily doable for every single one of us all the time, but also short form blogs are really popular. Seth Godin is a thought leader and he publishes a really, really short blog every single day and people are excited to read it. The biggest thing with blogging is you want to be as consistent as possible. So if you say, I'm going to start blogging every single week, no matter what, your audience is going to be expecting that every single week. I personally am not great at blogging, but it's something that I really enjoy. So for me, it's every few months, a great blog post is going to come out. You're going to enjoy it. And then you're going to have to wait a few more months. But I highly recommend getting into a consistent routine, whether that's every few months, whether that's every week, maybe even every day.
So let's talk about something else it's been around forever and people have, maybe been dancing with this and then decided, well, it's for me, it's not for me, I don't know. Podcasting. Podcasting, especially for folks that make a significant part of their living with their voice and with their ideas, is podcasting, again, today, looking at it snapshot right here, right now, has the train already left the station? Is this just in its infancy, even though it's been around for 10 plus years? What's the podcasting scoop?
I so believe this with every single platform, with any opportunity. If somebody's telling you it's dead, it's not true. There are always new podcasts coming out that hit the top of the charts, that are doing well, that are growing new followings. And so I don't ever think it's too late to join. I mean, if that was the case, why would we ever have a new TV show or a new series or a new movie? That train left the station? It's kind of a fun way to look at it. The one thing I will say is make sure your heart is in it for the right reasons. If you want to slowly grow a following, if you want to connect with people, if you just want to have fun and have influencers on your podcast, perfect. If your goal is monetization, maybe your heart isn't in it for the right reasons. But if you do have a following, give your audience exactly what they're looking for. They want more of you. They want a different format of content from you. So absolutely go for podcasting.
Fantastic. Really, really good. What platforms have I forgotten? What have we not talked about that you're either doing yourself or that you're seeing your clients do a lot of for their clients?
So Pinterest is one that is really, really popular. If you have any type of blog or lead magnets or a lot of content on your website, Pinterest is going to be a really powerful driver of traffic because you can grow your email list with freebies, with opt-ins, with awesome guides or cheat sheets. It's so powerful. You can grow it for free. And it is something that is a little bit confusing in the beginning, but it's one of those where if you pin a couple things each day and you stay on it, you're going to see results. Even if it's just a few extra subscribers per week, awesome. That's a few subscribers you didn't have before.
Both with Pinterest and with Instagram. A lot of people just post pretty visuals, right? And then some other people post these quote graphics, right? All these quote graphics and memes and quotes from famous people, inspirational, motivational quotes, little snippets of content. Whether we're talking Instagram or Pinterest, what's your take on those nicely designed text-based kind of quote posts versus, actual pictures? Here's my car, here's my kids, here's my club sandwich that I had for lunch today. Are those quote things getting, are we getting burned out on those? Or are those still good clickbait and lead magnets and ways to get your influence out there?
Think about your target market. Think about your audience. What is it that they're resonating with? What inspires them? What gives them a new perspective? If you go bring everything back to them and what they're wanting to hear, and you give them that inspiration, they see it in their feed, it's going to inspire action. And so they're not burnt out on them yet. They're still very popular. They're very wildly engaged with. Just don't put them out there for the sake of putting them out there. Make sure it's something that resonates with your audience, and then you'll see it result in action.
Well, it sounds like a lot of what you're saying, the consistent theme I'm picking up is quality over quantity,
yes.
Right? And just put a lot of love into what you're posting and what you're sharing and how you're engaging your tribe. It doesn't need to be one post every 6 minutes,
right?
But is it thoughtful? Is it authentic? Is it genuine? Is it on brand and on message? And does it resonate with the people that you want to attract into your world?
That's exactly right. And one thing I want to say, I know that, your audience might be listening to this thinking, this is very overwhelming. This feels like a lot of platforms that I need to be on. It is so much more powerful to go on one platform, focus on it, grow it, build it, love it, nurture it, and then expand to the next one. If you don't have one platform mastered or comfortably handled, don't go on to the next one unless you're ready to bring on a social media manager who can assist you with everything.
And so even with the selection of platforms, it's not even about your posting schedule. It's about, or your blogging schedule or your podcasting schedule. It's about, should you be doing these things at all? And make sure that you're doing one really, really well and in depth and with love and with care and with the attention that it deserves before you start throwing a whole bunch of other things onto the fire, and or get some help, right? Get some help from a social media manager, that when you're moving from one platform where you've already got some domination, okay, now let's start to build the campfire in this other arena.
That sounds exactly right. You just explained it in a really different way, but yes.
Fantastic. Well, it's fire, it's marshmallows, it's hot dogs. We're putting hot dogs on sticks, and it's crazy. It's crazy. So, Rachel, tell people how to get connected and stay connected to you. Any resources? Let's talk about the viral Facebook special report, the case study. Let's talk about the fabulous matchmaking service. How do people connect to your world?
Absolutely. So everything can be found on my website. I have the case study where you can see the post that went viral and what the effects of that were. And you'll be able to even see the exact ROI I had on that campaign. And it's kind of a fun answer. It's a little surprising. So feel free to grab that on my website. You can also find the matchmaking form, more information about Social Media University. My blog is on there, which, like I promised, there isn't a ton of consistent content, and that's okay. But everything can be found on my website and across all social media platforms. I'm the Mrs. Peterson.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you. This was absolutely awesome. You're awesome. And we'll post, the links and some of the hot links to some of these resources, and that go right back to your website so folks can tap into all that wonderfulness. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. I am so honored to be here, and I hope that everybody takes action. So take what I explained and go make it happen.
Well, that wraps up another episode of The Speaking Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on iTunes. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thespeakingshow.com. See you next time.